Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Gamescript. This is for Sunday Night Football, looking at the Baltimore Ravens versus the Los Angeles Chargers. They're playing in Los Angeles, and Baltimore are 3-point favorites with a 49.5-point total. And we are looking at a game where Los Angeles has been a disaster this season. They keep choking away these games. Meanwhile, Baltimore has been a hot team, and it's looking like Lamar Jackson is an MVP candidate. The question for tonight's game is, are the Chargers going to be able to get it together against the Ravens? And I don't think that they will be. I don't think that they will be able to. I think it's going to be a potential blowout game, and I'll get into it after this. Hey, what's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom here with Heatseeker Sports, and you're watching Gamescript. This is a show where I break down these island games for DraftKings Showdown purposes. And tonight we're looking at the Baltimore Ravens versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Baltimore are 3-point favorites. They're playing in Los Angeles, and there is a 49.5-point total. So expect it to be a pretty high-scoring game. The question for me is, how are the Chargers going to score points tonight? I don't know where they're going to go to. All the matchups are not favorable for the Chargers side. Baltimore's defense has been on fire, and Los Angeles's offense just keep choking. Justin Herbert has not performed well in good matchups versus good defenses against the pass. And Ekeler has not been performing, and he's got a tough matchup against Baltimore. His run defense, and on top of that, on the other side, Baltimore has a bunch of advantageous matchups, and on top of Joey Bosa being out, helping them improve their matchup even more. And they're also missing a safety. So on top of all that, it just seems like Baltimore is a clear good spot tonight. And I think that they could end up crushing the Chargers in this game. And the question is going to be, like, which Charger do we plug in? Because it could be 5-1 builds tonight. So before I get into digging into this player pool, hit the like button, looking for 15 likes, and I'll try to get a video out before the game starts with 4 picks, including a captain option. And hit the subscribe button on this page. Been on fire with these showdowns the last couple rounds. Hit the Dallas Showdown, hit all the players in my top 4 core plays, whatever you want to call them. They all went off, and that included Curtis Samuel and Brandon Cooks in that 4. So that was a really good night. And then the other night with the Jets and the Dolphins, I hit on that one too, and came within a 1v1 of shipping that one. So been pretty good lately, and I think I see a path in this game that might not be as popular. I don't really see. I see a lot of ownership on these Chargers, and I just don't. I'm just not on the Chargers tonight. So let's take a look at this game. If we look at the first guy, Lamar Jackson, for me is a pretty easy plug-in. He has been on fire lately. He scored 23, almost 24 points last week. He had a little bit of a slump there, but then he had 38 points, 18 points, 29 points, 32 points, 22 points. He's got an easy matchup tonight. On top of it, we're looking at a Chargers team that has allowed 20 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. And, that's among the highest in the league. It's probably a top 5 DraftKings points allowed to the quarterback position. So Lamar Jackson should have no problem finding his way into an optimal tonight. So I like him. Keenan Allen, he had a rough game last week, even though he scored 31 DraftKings points. He's been on fire lately. He might be the only guy worth starting on the Chargers tonight. So we'll keep Keenan Allen in mind, but he's just been on fire this year. tons more upside than he's had in the past. It seems like Kellen Moore has done a great job of unlocking his upside potential. And I like Keenan Allen just in general. He's got a tough matchup tonight, but Baltimore has not allowed a lot of big games to those wide receiver ones. So we'll dig a little bit deeper into that once we get there. Justin Herbert. I'm not a fan of Justin Herbert tonight. Check out some of his game logs against the tougher defenses. Against the Jets, he scored 7 DraftKings points. Against Kansas City, he had 12 DraftKings points. He had a decent game against Dallas. He had 20 DraftKings points against them. But, it could be dramatically reduce whatever his projection is tonight just to not get overexposed to Justin Herbert. I don't like him in tonight's matchup. Austin Ekeler has another bad matchup against the Baltimore Ravens, and he only had 8 points against Green Bay, who was a sieve for running backs up until that game. We have 5.6 points against Kansas City. Austin Ekeler has been up and down. He's getting his usual 20-point games mixed in there too. But I don't like the matchup for Austin Ekeler tonight. And if I'm only going to start one Charger, it's either going to probably be Keenan Allen, Austin Ekeler, one of those secondary targets. So I'm not really sure which direction to go there yet until we start building. But Austin Ekeler does not have a favorable matchup tonight. If we look at Gus Edwards is a guy I like tonight. I think Baltimore is going to be running the hell out of the ball, especially with Joey Bosa out tonight. And I think they're going to try to do a clock management tonight. And I think Gus Edwards is going to be leaned on pretty heavily tonight. And I think he's going to have success against this Chargers defense. And I like Gus. Had him as the captain last week against Cincinnati, and I think it paid off for us. I think he ended up being the captain in the optimal. I can't remember though, but he was high up there. He had a big game with 21 DraftKings points, and I like him again tonight. Let's go with Zay Flowers, another guy that I like. Looks like he is questionable, but expected to suit up. He's got a good matchup as a slot receiver against these Chargers. If you can look at the DraftKings points allowed by the Chargers to slot receivers, it's 18 DraftKings points a game that they're allowing. And Zay Flowers has the best DVOA matchup on top of it, like running out of the slot a decent amount. He's running 30% of his routes out of the slot, so that's a pretty significant number. But I think Zay Flowers is going to get out of his recent slump tonight. You can see from his game log, 8 points last week, 12 points the week before that, 2 points, 6 points. He hasn't really done anything since about the game versus Tennessee in week 6. And I think that Zay Flowers is going to come out of his slump tonight, especially with Mark Andrews now out for potentially the remainder of the season. They're going to need to lean on Zay Flowers like in the middle of the field a little bit more, I think. So Zay Flowers I like tonight. Keaton Mitchell, I don't mind him tonight, potentially starting double running backs against this banged up defense of the Chargers. Keaton Mitchell did not do much last week. He only got 5 DraftKings points, but I think tonight's matchup is going to be a little bit more favorable. Prior weeks, he got 13 against Cleveland, and he got 23 versus Seattle. So he's shown a lot of upside, and he's got potential to blow up at any time, and I think he's got the matchup tonight to do that. So I like Keaton Mitchell in my player pool. Beckham, another guy I like in my player pool. He's banged up his shoulder last week, but he had a big game. He had 18 DraftKings points, 18.6 DraftKings points last week, 11 versus Cleveland, 15 versus Seattle. I believe it was Spread. Spread and I both liked Beckham in that week that they played against Cincinnati. He ended up having a good game, and I think he is in play again tonight. It depends on how many Ravens we're going to try to get into our lineup tonight. But I like Beckham tonight as well. Scrolling down a little bit more, Tucker, I think, is in play too. I don't think that the Chargers are necessarily going to be able to stop the offense of the Ravens to the point where they're going to need Tucker too much, but I like having him in the player pool regardless. He is always a good go-to guy. Let's see what his flex salary is. Flex salary is 5,400, so he's kind of a plug and play where you need him. Isaiah Likely did not get much action last week when Mark Andrews went out. He hasn't gotten much action at all this year. He's been lightly used in this new offensive coordinator's offense, but you never know if he had a chance to get more integrated during practice. Obviously, last week we were not expecting Mark Andrews to go out in the first play pretty much, or the first drive of the game. So Isaiah Likely could be interesting this week. His salary is way elevated though at 5,200. So, it's gonna kind of depend on what your game script goes there. Dicker the kicker, not really liking the kicker on the Chargers side, but if you think that the Chargers can do a better job than I think that they'll be able to do, don't mind Dicker at all, especially with the Ravens. You're going to have the ability to stall the Chargers in the red zone. So expect Dicker to get a decent amount of kicks if they can move the ball tonight. Everett has a good matchup, but he's banged up and he's in a with Parham, and his salary is 4,800. Last few games, he was hurt. He got hurt last week or 2 weeks ago versus Detroit. He didn't play last week. And then week 9, he got 2 targets against the Jets, 4 targets against KC. He's had 2 games over double-digit points, though, this season, so maybe not so much on Everett tonight. Donald Parham, same situation as Everett, except Parham's been getting a little bit more work as a tight end recently. He got 6 targets last week, 5 targets against Chicago a few weeks ago. Both those games he did pretty well, and then he got 14 DraftKings points against Minnesota closer to the beginning of the season. I do like Parham a little bit tonight, but I'm only looking for one Charger, and he doesn't have the best matchup. He's got a matchup where Baltimore is allowing 10.7 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position, so maybe scratch that on Parham. Maybe not as interested in tight ends for the Chargers at all. Ravens defense, definitely interested in them tonight. I think that the Chargers will probably stay aggressive, even though they may not have much success tonight. And I think that's going to open the door for these Ravens D to get a pick 6 or 2 tonight and do some damage against the Chargers. Bateman, not really into Bateman tonight. He just hasn't been getting enough work to justify his $4,000 salary, and I don't think it's going to be a night where they're going to need to spread the ball out too much. The Chargers D, they can always be in play. There's been a lot of fumbles by Lamar lately, and Chargers D, they've had a couple big weeks in there, and they're going to be in desperation mode tonight, knowing that they need to win this game to survive, but the defense just isn't well coached, and they've been just a mess this year, allowing a boatload of points to opposing offenses, and it just depends on how desperate they are tonight. Defense is able to do anything against Baltimore's high-powered offense. Joshua Kelly, not really interested there. Quentin Johnson has not shown up yet. He had his perfect opportunity last week. He dropped a important ball last week in that game against Green Bay, and he just has not been worth the draft pick so far this season, but he's been getting the targets. He got 6 targets last week and 4 targets the week before that. Then he had 6 targets for Chicago. So he's been active. So if you want to get away from those high-priced guys on the Baltimore side, then Quentin Johnson might be interesting tonight, because the way that the Ravens have been playing against wide receiver ones, that opens up the door for guys like Quentin Johnson. Jalen Guyton is a guy that I like tonight. Guyton is coming off of a groin injury, and he's expected to suit up for Sunday's game. So we don't have official word on it yet, but it looks like he'll play tonight. and they're going to need him, especially if the Ravens are able to lock down Keenan Allen. In week 10, he had 6 targets, 41 yards, and a touchdown for 14 DraftKings points. I would expect Jalen Guyton to be leaned on heavily if he plays this week, because they do not have anything there with Quentin Johnson, and they're going to need another guy to throw to if Keenan Allen is being shut down. And Ekeler too, for that matter, because Austin Ekeler has not been very good recently. Nelson Aguilar is another guy that plays a lot in the slot for the Baltimore side, so I like keeping him in the player pool. He hasn't gotten a ton of targets recently, but maybe with Mark Andrews out now, maybe they work him a little bit more in, but I like him more as a dart throw than a core piece. Justice Hill, not really interested in Justice Hill. I like Keaton Mitchell and Gus Edwards tonight. Smart has been getting a decent amount of work lately, and he's been doing all right. He got a touchdown last week off of 3 targets, and I guess that's about it. So he had that one big game. Darius Davis is a guy that I've liked, but they just don't use the guy, and I'm just getting a little frustrated with recommending him. He's getting 2 targets a game. He could bust one out at any time. So at 1K, if you're doing 150 lineups, I'd keep him in my player pool. Other than that, that's about it that I see. I don't really see any dumpster dives in tonight's matchup, except maybe Erickson here. Erickson's another guy. If you see Guyton is out, then maybe Erickson's a little bit interesting as that desperation receiver, since Quentin Johnson isn't hacking it and Keenan Allen might be shut down tonight. So keep Alex Erickson in your player pool. If you're doing 150 lineups, I wouldn't go out of my way to start him unless I'm multi entering. So as far as building a lineup, I'll walk you guys through the optimal lineup, and we can see that here in a second. All right, so it looks like Lamar Jackson and the captain for the optimal. Let's get him in there. It looks like we got Jalen Guyton, Austin Ekeler, and Herbert. I don't like putting that many expensive guys in my lineups tonight from the Chargers side, but Guyton I do like. So let's get Guyton in here. Who else do they have? We got the Zay Flowers, who I like tonight. So he's at 8K, and so that leaves you with $600. You can figure out the the rest of it. But that's a direction that the optimizer is going in. Looks like they got more Chargers than I'm comfortable with tonight. But, like that could be a popular way to go tonight, maybe. But I am probably going to stick with a Baltimore heavy build. I can see this lineup making sense if you like this game script. Lamar Jackson is throwing the ball to Zay Flowers mainly, and he's probably got to be spreading it out a little bit to keep other receivers out of this lineup, but have Lamar Jackson in the captain, and then Lamar Jackson's having success running. Herbert is throwing the ball to Ekeler and Guyton, and whoever this mystery spot is, and having enough volume there to keep all of them in this optimal. So different direction that I want to go. I like Gus Edwards in the captain tonight. I think Gus Edwards is going to have a big game tonight. I like Lamar Jackson. He's an easy plug and play. I like Flowers. Flowers can be the guy that Jackson is mainly throwing to tonight. I'm going to plug in Keenan Allen for now. No, I'm going to plug in Guyton, because I like Guyton a lot tonight, especially if he plays and we're not hearing any sign of injury. That could be coming out any minute now, actually. Let's see if it's dropped in already. Check and see if there's any inactives out. This is now 5:30, so probably not. but just in case, I'm going to give a double check here. See if Ravens inactives. All right, so it hasn't come out yet, but I see a tweet from a beat writer saying that Ravens will have 6 scratches. Malik Harrison is that's one of those guys that's going to be out on the Ravens side, but I don't really see too much else there just yet. So we got to wait on these inactives to come. But Guyton's a guy I like if he's active, so keep an eye on that. That's going to be important. I don't mind going Keaton Mitchell and doing the double running back. And that leaves us with Odell Beckham as an option. Justin Tucker, if you want to go there. If we wanted to put in Ravens D over Mitchell, that leaves us with 10-5. You could get Ekeler in that situation and just have Ekeler and Guyton being the guys on the Chargers. That would make complete sense. And that wouldn't take, like the Justin Herbert out completely. We know Justin Herbert will be able to perform somewhat, but there's a few different directions there that you can go. I don't mind the Ravens defense at all tonight. I think that they're going to have a decent game. I think that all those guys that I went through, Ekeler, I'm a little bit skeptical of, but if you got 10K left on the table, I don't hate putting in Ekeler. I also don't hate if you want to get a little bit different, maybe plugging in Mitchell or Beckham in this lineup instead and leaving like thousands of dollars on the table gets you different. Although I think having Gus Edwards at the captain gets you different enough anyways. Let's swap that around, put Jackson and Edwards like that. That'd leave us with 8K. I kind of like that direction a little bit better. It'll be a little bit more chalkier with Lamar Jackson in the captain, but that doesn't matter. Beckham gives him a second receiver to throw to. Mitchell, then you got the entire running game of the Ravens with Jackson, Edwards, and Mitchell. And then you have Ravens D on top of it and Zay Flowers going. And Guyton with those desperation heaves that they're going to be making on the Chargers side to make something happen when they're getting beat this badly. You could also go a direction. I like Zay Flowers as a potential captain as well. If you want to get Flowers in there, that gives us an option for let's get Jackson in there. Let's get Edwards in there. And let's see. I'm going to probably leave Beckham out of this one. If I'm going in this direction, maybe that's a Baltimore D situation. I like putting Baltimore's D in there. Let's get Guyton in there. And that leaves us with 10,800. So you could put Ekeler in a build like this as well. Like if you are uncomfortable with putting too many, like a 5-1 build or whatever. But I think I'm probably going to be going more towards 5-1, honestly. But I mean, I see a pretty solid core that I'm kind of going with. And, I feel pretty good about tonight's matchup, which could easily blow up in my face. But we'll see what happens. I got Spread on the show with me tomorrow. Make sure to hit that like button. Looking for 15 likes to put out a shorter video. Got to do it quick because we're almost at game time. And subscribe to the channel. I'm pretty close to 200 subscribers. So help me out and get me over that hump to 200 subscribers. And I appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow.